Good morning and welcome back to the London Food Network, brought to you by Embrace AI Consultancy, where we help food and drink businesses grow smarter through automation systems and strategy. Today we're joined by Jarrod Hunt, Managing Director of Continuous Process Solutions, a family-run engineering company in the Black Country that keeps the UK's food and manufacturing lines moving. They specialise in steel belts, conveyors and continuous process machinery, recently becoming the sole UK and Ireland partner for Mingke, one of the world's leading steel belt manufacturers. So, Jarrod, welcome. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm very good. I'm very good, Sebastian. Thanks for having me on. It's good to speak to like-minded people in the industry and gain a little bit of insight from a broader aspect. So, yeah, thanks for having me on.
I was quite keen to have you on, actually, Jarrod, because, with the podcast, the objective is really to try and get a broader understanding of the food industry. Because, when people go and buy their food, or they're sitting in a restaurant eating it, or going to the supermarket and buying it, no one really understands all the processes that happen in between, from your packaging to your distribution, logistics, to your marketing, sales, packaging, automation, belts, the conveyor belts, the packing facilities, the servicing companies, engineering companies, all the intelligence that goes into these production systems to kind of make food available to us at a price we can all afford, and in a way that kind of feeds the not only the nation but the world. And of course, with your business, this is a prime example of the kind of hidden parts of the food industry that no one really thinks about. But of course, without it, we probably wouldn't have it, would we?
No.
Tell us a bit more about this, what it is that you do, and what kind of projects you've taken on. And
yeah. Well, when you're walking around the supermarket and you see all the aisles full of food, and especially in the sort of refrigeration and frozen aspects of the supermarket, you just look at a packet, you look at a food, and you're looking to put it in your trolley. What you don't see is what goes on behind that to get that product from source to the supermarket. And that's where we sort of come into it. The fast-moving consumer goods aspects of what we get involved with is our main bread and butter. So we keep all these factories, these large, huge factories with huge volumes and throughput, from the sort of raw source of ingredients. For example, a pasty, which costs £1.50 on the actual shelf. The infrastructure behind that is phenomenal. We've got the raw ingredients coming in to being mixed, to being put into the pasty, and then the pasty is baked out of the other side and then onto the freezing conveyor, or cooling or chilling conveyor, and then onto the packaging side. And the volume it would make your head hurt, the amount of volume that these things are going through. And the main artery into the factory is the bit that we look after. It's the conveyor belts that go through the ovens, through the freezing tunnels, IQF freezers, instant quick freeze, keep the product nice and fresh. A majority are done on solid steel belts. You'll be amazed at just the things that you look around in your general household. Worktops, tyre testing, food, all sorts of things are made on these steel belts. And historically, they are the main artery in the factory. If that goes down, the factory comes to a halt. So our job is to sites and identify any root cause problems, any issues with product contamination, product refuse. Refuse comes from products being ripped from the belt. If you imagine, if you've got a baking tray in your oven and you've got a pasty on there, and you take it out of the oven, you take the pasty off, and half the pasty is left on the baking surface, it's no good to anybody. So yeah, it's keeping this side of the business running smoothly, and also servicing and changing them, because they don't last forever. Same as your car tires, that they have a shelf life. But yeah, it's interesting. It keeps us busy.
I bet. And let's go back in history a little bit. So, it's quite a niche kind of sector to get into. How did you get into it?
Yeah, I started about 22 years ago, starting with one of our competitors, actually. Gained insight through experience, as everyone does. Started delving deeper into the steel belts, installing them, maintaining them, keeping customer relations, keeping up to speed with progress. Everybody looks at the steel belt and thinks that it's just a piece of steel between two drums, but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with regards to flatness, thermal retention, the production methods of these steel belts. So yeah, gained a lot of knowledge for, I think it was about 12 years that I was with the previous company, and then decided to go it alone, really. Customers was coming to me for my expertise, built up a bit of a customer base through contacts that I already had. It's quite incestuous, the food manufacturing side of business is people tend to move
Yeah.
within the sort of business sector. So you'll have one
Yeah.
person, an engineering manager, will move from one site and move to another site. They'll pass on the knowledge. Oh, you need to, give Jarrod a call for this. So you get your foot in the door that way. So yeah, it's sort of snowballed effectively for the past sort of 12, 13 years. And last year, quite rightly, as you said, we were approached by Mingke, steel belt manufacturer, to represent them in the UK and Ireland. And since then, it's sort of, effectively, we've changed gear. We've had to up tempo to take this new product to market, a new supplier to market. We were discussing earlier before we went live is the change. People don't really like change, but if you explain the change and the positive effects for the change, then yeah, you can get people on board pretty quickly, especially if there's a cost saving involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think money talks as always, isn't it, really? And
Well, of course, it's
food is such a
business.
tight market.
Yeah, it's business at the end of the day. It's nobody's in it to lose money. So yeah, you've got to try and keep ahead of the game and ahead of the curve and move with different trends. So yeah, it's quite important that it's our role to inform these customers of changes and positive changes for them. Especially when it comes to finances, money's tight at the moment with increased energy costs, employment costs, and so on and so forth. So if we can save them a couple of pence along the way, then more for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the food industry in particular, in my experience, of course, it is a difficult industry, and you've got to be careful where your margins are and where your competition is doing, because when there is innovation, when there are better ways to do things, if you don't adapt, then you're going to get left behind pretty quick. So it's oftentimes not a case of, in your circumstances, it's kind of like it's something that is needed regardless, right? And I guess your challenge is to sell your business services rather than them using somebody else. So how do you manage that? Like, how do you reach out to clients? What's your kind of like process for finding the people to work with and building relationships, and what does that look like?
Yeah, we're quite lucky really, because obviously with 22 years experience, there's not many companies or fast moving consumer goods factories that I don't know about having 22 years experience in there. What we do fall short on is new pop-ups, new companies starting, or the smaller companies that taking the next leap up to fast-moving consumer goods and putting these continuous lines in. We do a lot of work on the socials, on social media, such as LinkedIn, YouTube, and things like that, to try and keep our finger on the pulse of these companies that are now expanding. Unfortunately, what we are seeing is for every one that expands, you tend to lose one along the way that either is downsizing or goes completely out of business. But it's keeping your finger on the pulse to make sure that you're already engaging with these people. But yeah, I mean, we're lucky. We've got quite a large database of customers that we're in regular contact with, and we try and once a year go out and see these customers on a face-to-face basis. Not always the most effective, as in regards to cost, but it just keeps your face fresh in front of that customer. And it also helps you sort of relay any upcoming progressions with regards to developments, new products that we've got coming to market, ways that we can help them save money. So yeah, it's sort of old-fashioned with a new spin of going to see the customers, like the old days of the rep going out and putting your face to a name sort of thing. But the way we do that, yeah, we've got to adapt and change. So yeah, we do a lot of social media and email campaigns as well, little offers such as free inspections and things, just to get our face in front of the customer, really.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you still doing do you do trade shows and things like this?
We're looking at them. I have done trade shows in the past. Now, were they fruitful? I don't know so much really against the cost of them. But yeah, it's something we're looking at. Yeah, it's something we've certainly considered, especially with Mingke coming on board. They do a lot of stuff in Asia to raise awareness of the brand, and I think they need to sort of do a little bit more in Europe. So that's the sort of thing we're in discussions with at the moment, just to raise brand awareness. You've got us out there raising awareness, but it certainly doesn't hurt to do a couple a year. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I must admit, like we used to do a lot of expos, and actually, I grew a lot the business through expos. The last couple we've done is been a bit different. I find that it's quite time consuming, costly, and
Yeah,
you still end up having to do a lot of admin afterwards. Because you get a lot of kind of tire kickers that come and talk to you and
yeah,
do the British polite thing of having a conversation with you because they don't want to be rude. So
yeah.
you kind of gather a lot of contacts and information.
I mean, the
Yeah,
last
and then you end up doing a sort of admin afterwards as well, anyway.
Yeah, the last show we did was, crikey mate, was a good 5 or 6 years ago. And to be honest, yeah, we got more manufacturing contacts as in regards to machinery and things that we can use
Yeah,
to assist and complement our products rather than customers. So was it
yeah.
fruit as in sales? No, but as in additional contacts and more products for us to sort of complement our range? Yes. So yeah, it's a little bit of swings and roundabouts, really.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's the difficulty, and I guess a lot of what you do as well, because it's hidden behind the scenes. It's kind of like, how do you get your brand out there? And I guess LinkedIn for me, of course, and what testimonials, I guess, is a good one as well for you.
The what? Sorry, that you lost signal a little bit there.
Testimonials, like customer testimonials
Oh,
and
God,
reviews.
yeah. Yeah, funnily enough, actually, we've
Yeah,
just installed a belt with a large Scottish pie manufacturer, and we're just in negotiations with to supply a belt for a completely different application. And they have asked, well, have you got a customer out there with a similar sort of application that would be willing to give a report on why they have changed from their existing supplier to you, and how the process went, and how the quality of the product compares to that of the competitor. So I've contacted the manufacturer and said, yeah, no problem. We're happy with the service. We're happy with the product. Feel free to give them our contact details and ask them to give me a call, and I'll verify you, sort of thing. So yeah, testimonials are a bloody good way to sort of get your name out there and get your existing
yeah,
customers you yet to deal with to trust you because the product works.
yeah. And what kind of like challenges do like in a business like yours? What's your biggest challenges on a day-to-day basis? Like, what are you
Yeah,
battling against?
the biggest challenge is getting through the gatekeepers. I mean, years ago, you just ring up a receptionist and ask to speak to the engineering manager. You'd get put through, or the engineering director, or somebody in engineering, and they'd pop you through. But now with GDPR and things of this ilk, it's a little bit more difficult. Although GDPR is a very grey area with business to business, we still have that hurdle to get through. Historically, as I was explaining before about it being slightly incestuous, that people move from business to business or different manufacturer to different manufacturer, your name's still being bandied around. So we're lucky in that aspect that we can pick up new customers through existing contacts moving locations. But with regards to new customers, I think it's more difficult now than ever before to try and get your foot or name through the door and reach that contact. And I find it really frustrating why customers don't have a vendor portal that you can put your name against and they can select the vendors they want to engage with. For me,
Yeah,
our products for these customers far exceed what they're getting from their existing suppliers. So why not have some sort of vendor recognition program or vendor filter program that you could apply to all companies and be filtered out with regards to, yes, this is a good product for our company. Let's get these in and let's have a discussion. I can't understand why companies don't do that.
you mean something a bit like check a trade?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that sort of thing, but specific for food industry.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean, to be honest, that would a company like mine that So with the super side of things, we got to a point where the next level up would be this kind of automation,
Yeah,
belts, and all this kind of stuff. And I've not gone ahead with that purely because I don't know if I want to take my business to that. But I tell you what, it'd be bloody helpful if there was like a check a trade type
yeah.
platform where I could just go on there
I mean,
and have a look and set up some tools and get some guidance. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, sometimes like, to try and look for this yourself when you don't really have a clue what you're doing is actually
yeah.
quite difficult.
Yeah. I mean, there's companies out there such as your Rubik's, your Eric's, and people like that, your procurement companies, that look after all their central purchasing, nuts, bolts, bearings, things like that. But these steel conveyor belts and machinery, they are hellishly expensive. So they fall under capital purchases rather than generic day-to-day purchases. So we fall out of that remit of going onto a supplier database. So we have to engage with those companies direct. So people like us have a specific niche product. These sort of companies need to be aware that there's companies like us that can provide them with products for them to enable them to make their products, if you get what I'm trying to say, that fall outside the general procurement remit. And it's getting through these gatekeepers to say, look, we're here. We can help you with your products. We can streamline your business. We can reduce your waste. We can save you a few bob and we've got the creditable expertise to make sure that your factory is performing the best that it can do.
Yeah.
And it's those frustrations.
And how do you in a business like yours, which is obviously heavily relying on equipment and things that are probably going to be installed for years and years to come, I assume. I mean, what's the kind of average life cycle of some of this equipment you're installing?
That's a really good question, actually, because the steel belts and the conveyor side of thing, it's how long a piece of string. It's pretty same as a car. You see a classic car running around and think, that looks absolutely amazing, in pristine condition, but it's had a good owner that's looked after it. And then you can see exactly the same car rotting on a drive, falling to pieces because it's not being maintained, it's not being looked after. Exactly the same scenario with your belts and your conveyors. If you've got a good service team behind it, that can last years, like 50, 60, 70 years. We've got customers in Scotland that are running the same belt for 35, 40 years. But then again, we've got other customers that can wreck a belt within 18 months. Because the maintenance isn't there. So it's unfortunately we're in a world now where engineers are very thin on the ground. Expertise is very thin on the ground. People are going to sort of my age, retiring. All that knowledge is being lost and not cascaded down to the younger generation. These machines are becoming more and more neglected. Henceforth, while we're here to sort of pick up the pieces and fill that gap in the engineering sector to bring that expertise to the customer and ensure that these lines are maintained and try and get as much life out of them. Historically, I would say a travelling oven in the food sector has got a shelf life of around about 35 to 40 years maximum. And I know for a fact that 80% of them are in excess of 50 years.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, it's a significant investment, I'm sure, to purchase the machinery. But I'll tell you what, bloody hell, if you can buy anything on this planet that lasts you 30, 40 years, I mean, that's more than most relationships, for example.
I got you. Yeah.
We invest a ton of money on our spouses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that lasts. That's wrong.
It's true, though. And I keep going back to the analogy of running a motor car and servicing it and maintaining it. You wouldn't keep a car for 5, 6 years and not consider changing the brakes, the tyres, and taking it for routine servicing. You wouldn't even consider that. So, but these companies are running these machines 24/7. We're in the fast-moving goods sector. Time is money. If that line goes down, they could be losing thousands of pounds an hour, let alone the wasted labour that they've got to pay for with guys and girls standing around doing nothing because the line's down. So yeah, it's common sense, but common sense is very thin on the ground these days.
So, Jarrod, how do you future-proof then? Because if you're saying you've got a kind of aging expertise that's kind of reaching retirement, what's going to happen in 5, 10 years' time then when all you guys are retired? Well, what's going to happen then? Because I mean, I'm sure robots are not going to be advanced enough by that point, are they?
I mean, AI. Yeah, I'm quite a good advocate for AI. I'm all for it, to be honest. I think it's a great tool to enhance human life and make life a little bit better for us all. However, it's got its limitations. There's no way we can do what we're doing through AI. It's a physical impossibility until we have manned robots, of course, but that's another discussion. With regards to future-proofing, I mean, it's investing in the youth, really. We're taking on 2 new guys, one starting the start of December, one starting in January. And it's passing on the knowledge and the baton to the next generation so that they can run with it. New people coming on board already. Speaking to the new guys, have already bought some good innovation. Actually, some things that I'd never thought of. So you like to think that you know everything, but bringing a fresh pair of eyes and a new brain in certainly gives you the impetus to sort of go again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I mean, things do change, right? Even though, I guess, in the machinery point of view, what's the biggest changes you see then? I mean, over the time you've been 22 years, right? So the lifespan of the equipment being so long, are there many changes that happen between kind of older and newer machinery?
Yeah, I mean, automation's a big one. Straight away, there's lots of automation being integrated into these lines, especially for feeding continuous lines, i.e. raw ingredients, pastry folders, things like that. A lot more of that I've seen being integrated into automated services rather than individual staff working these lines. We've actually introduced tracking systems to help guide the steel belts to make sure that they don't collide into the framework. Again, that's automated. Before, there would be an engineer with a spanner adjusting the tracking, but now that's all automated so that they can run the line and step back and ensure that it's going to be running parallel and straight and not tracking off into the side of the oven, creating catastrophic breakdowns. Yeah, I mean, cleaning brushes, automated cleaning brushes, so that in between production runs, we can integrate into the feed. So as soon as it senses that there's no product on the belt, the cleaning system will come into effect and clean the belt down in between production cycles. So yeah, we've tried to keep our finger on the pulse with regards to automation and making sure that we try and give the best to the customer and minimize downtime.
And in terms of like your kind of back end side of things, your office, sales, your kind of admin, processing, orders, I mean, I presume servicing is quite a big part of the business, right? Like the actual servicing that's booked probably regularly with certain customers. You have contracts with that?
Yeah, again, to sort of generate regular income and make sure that we're offering the correct support to the end user, service contracts always a great way in. And it builds trust between the two parties, myself and the customer. So yeah, regular service agreements to make sure that their lines are checked regular, because as we were discussing earlier, the engineering teams have reduced significantly inside across the board. I've seen that over the past 22 years. They've gone from teams of maybe 30, 40 people on a rota basis working 24/7 down to 20, 15 people in some cases. So things get missed, things get overlooked. A lot of the automation side is taken care of because it will flag up when there's an issue. So they don't need to check things on a regular basis. Yeah, with regards to the automation side, lots of these things are self-flagged by the machines. So I can see why they've reduced the engineering teams. But yeah, for us to go in there and maintain these lines, it is important for us to visit them regularly and ensure that they are checked, because we've got health and safety implications that if they aren't and they fail, the sort of equipment we're working on can create fires. It's a danger to health. It's a danger to people if it's not maintained and looked after correctly. So yeah, we've got an obligation to make sure that the workforce are safe, as well as the product and the factory is safe.
And tell me this, like, how, because to me, it's like a pretty good industry to get into, right? If you're a young lad and you're not too sure what you're going to do, of course, in being an Instagram influencer, it's know your bag, like a lot of the young kids want to do. What's the path for someone to come in and say, listen, Jarrod, I love a bit of engineering, I love building things. What's the process for that young lad or lady to come in and
it's quite rightly, it's open to all. It's the process would be, you've got to have an interest in this sort of thing. Foremost, you have to have an interest in why things work, how things work, what to do if things go wrong. I mean, when we were younger, we used to play with Lego and Meccano and things like that. Nowadays, it's computers. Do you build your computer at home to play your games on? If you've got sort of level of interest, then automatically you've crossed that hurdle into finding out why and how things work. So I think that's the foremost. Mm-hmm. Then it's experience. Unfortunately, there's not a course that I can put anybody on. I mean, if they've got a general engineering degree, or a mechanical or electrical engineering degree, then yeah, that's a step up. That's sort of head and shoulders above everybody else to get into this sort of work. But fundamentally, unfortunately, it's literally site work. You've got to go on site. You've got to experience the troubles. You've got to learn by your mistakes because there are no courses. All the courses are in here. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's experience. It's on-site experience.
How long does it take, do you think? I mean, let's say on average. I mean, I'm sure that some people obviously learn quicker than others, but
Yeah. I mean,
on
yeah,
average,
I've had people that's come to work for me that pick it up really quickly. Within 6 to 8 months, they're getting proficient in how the pneumatic side of things work, how ovens work, what the role of the steel belt is, and issues and problematic influences on the belt. Then again, we've had people that take 2 years to sort of pick up the knowledge and for it to sink in. So I think it's down to the individual really and how they absorb and learn from themselves and take information on board. More people are practical. Some people are more literal. They'll want to sit down and do the academical side rather than the physical side. So yeah, it depends on what type of person they are. If they're handy with a spanner, helps. If they know one end from a screwdriver, that no helps.
And do you struggle to find people, or is there enough? Is there enough interest that you don't worry about these things too much?
Unfortunately, we're in the Gen Zers, which people with practical skills are very thin on the ground. Got, like you say, lots of people thinking that they can make lots of money from Instagram and social media, and the reality is that same as being a professional footballer. There's lots of people out there that want to be a professional footballer. Have they got the skills and the intuition to do it? 99.9% haven't, unfortunately. So yeah, it's one of those things, really. It's very, very hard to find good people. Like I said before, we've managed to find 2 young, good candidates that I'm hoping we can mould and shape into another iteration of myself, if I can be as bold to say. But yeah, it's having that thirst for knowledge, really, and also a passion for the job. Not a lot of people want to go into a factory, a food factory, and crawl in the muck and the grime and get the hands dirty and have grease under the fingernails.
Yeah.
And the next stage, putting a certain suit and tie on, certain shirt and tie, and going to see a customer to demonstrate your goods in front of them.
Yeah. So it's quite a broad variety of kind of skills, I guess, or
Yeah,
kind of
you have to wear many hats.
multiple. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and having that ability to and flip between the two, you do literally have to have multiple personalities, and to sort of bring that attribute out in people is very difficult. But also have that person have the level of intelligence, dare I say, to sort of take it and run with it and grow the company with myself. It's very hard.
Yeah. And how do you do that? How do you find people? Do you put job ad on Indeed or something like that and kind of hope
We've
for the
just
best?
Yeah, we've just run a recruitment campaign via LinkedIn. We had 12 applicants over a period of 4 weeks. So we went through them. We've spoken to every single one, managed to narrow it down to these 2 candidates. Then we have face-to-face, I'd call them loose chat interviews, where it's not actually an interview, it's just to see, because we're a small team, we've got to gel with each other. If you meet that person,
Absolutely.
it's literally like going out on a date. It really is. You've got to have that sort of intimacy. So yeah, you've got to get on. You've got to gel with these people, and then obviously we've taken it then to the next stage by an official interview where we go through what experiences, what qualifications they've got. 2 guys we're taking on are actually accredited welders, very slight engineering background. So that sort of person we can mould and pass that knowledge on to go into this industry, having a bit of clout. So yeah. We'll send them on a training course over in China. The training course is 1 month, just for the initial installation and product knowledge. After that, it's ongoing quarterly reviews and maybe more training in China before we let them loose on the general public.
Interesting. Well, that sounds quite fun, actually, really. And just kind of go and learn something in China. That alone makes me want to sign up. That'd be an interesting one.
We've got a good package, Sebastian. Good package.
Yeah, do you know what? I think my next ventures are going to be well away from the food industry.
Yeah, it's not an
It's a
easy
tough
industry.
industry.
Yeah, it's
Tough
not an easy.
industry. Just it requires a certain caliber of person, and I've not worked out whether we are somehow a bit naive, or maybe we're just a little bit kind of we got dropped on our heads as kids, or we just like pain. But the food industry is a difficult industry, and it really helps chisel you into a very tough human being with a lot of resilience, because challenges are everywhere, particularly in the food industry. You've got so many different angles of problems that can happen, that you're inevitably going to walk into problems fairly often. So it kind of teaches you a lot of resilience, problem solving, thinking on your feet. And the good thing about that is they're applicable. Everything you learn in this kind of industry is applicable on pretty much anything else in this planet, which is quite good, actually. So
my background was automotive.
Nice.
Yeah, so my background was automotive. So I came from the automotive industry into this industry, and that was slight business to business, but more a business to retail sort of thing. That had its challenges. The working in the food industry, the only way I can describe it is frustration. It's so frustrating because when as a supplier of goods to maintain production, when you meet resistance, it's sort of, for God's sake, we can see the problem coming before you can. Please listen to us. And they don't listen to us, and then they pick up the phone on a Sunday afternoon when you're just about to sit down with your Sunday dinner with your family, and there's a customer on the end of a phone going, Jarrod, the belt's tracked off, or we've got no production, can you get down here pronto? And it's like, for God's sake, I've been telling you about this problem for 6 months. That's the frustration side of it.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. And that leads me to my next question. I mean, there's obviously something that spurs you on, right, Jarrod? So what is it that has made it all worth it for you? Is there any particular moments in time or a particular win?
Yeah.
What is it that kind of keeps you going, and what inspires you?
That's a good question. I question myself on a regular basis, that very question. I suppose it's satisfaction, and a lot of the customers have become more than customers. They've become friends. And I haven't worked in an industry where you have customers literally just send you a random text, how are you doing, blah, blah, blah. Hope the wife's okay, that sort of thing. But it is satisfaction at the end of the day. I think it's going into a problem and literally having the whole of that factory, the whole of the production staff, just looking at you saying, we are up the creek without a boat or a paddle, and there's only one person that can sort it out, and all eyes are on you. And yes, it's pressure. Yes, sometimes you feel like crying. Yes, you're literally pulling your hair out at some points. But at the end of the day, when you hand the keys back to that line and it's running, and there's food or whatever coming off the end of it, and they give you a passport back and say, thank you. And then you put your invoice in, which is the cherry on the top.
Nice. No, do you know what? I think that's the one thing that is consistent with people in this kind of industry is actually the job satisfaction is immense.
Yeah.
There's something hard on is the community feel about it as well. And I think the kind of people you meet are quite unique, and you kind of all have something in common, I guess. Maybe that's what it is as well.
I think we're all mad. I think we're all mad. I do think we're all mad.
Well, we're dropped on our heads at some point. And conversely as well, I mean, there must have been some hairy moments in the past 22 years where you really did question your life choices, and I'm sure you've almost thrown in the towel several times. So walk us through some of these painful memories and what happened and how did you get through it?
Oh God, the only thing I can describe is post-traumatic stress disorder would be one. And that was a biscuit manufacturer that we were on site with. And we just installed a very large, very expensive system to maintain the line. Switched it on, and of course it didn't work. And they had no production. And we'd already had the line down for 4 days. Now, this line, I know, earns probably around about £20,000-30,000 in profit per hour in production. So to have that line down was rather costly. So at the end of the 4 days intervention, and we switched it on and it didn't work, all eyes were on us to say, why isn't it working? So then you sort of go into panic mode and you start looking at things, pulling things out, checking things. Have I done this right? Have I connected that right? Is that okay? Yeah, everything seemed okay. Then we went back to the hotel. We said, look, guys, nobody's going to work effectively under these conditions. Stress, tired, let's go away, get a good meal, grab a pint, have a good night's sleep. we'll be in first thing in the morning. Got to the hotel, felt like crying, didn't have a clue what the problem was, had a good sleep, woke up the next morning, started again. Found an issue with a certain part of the program, managed to find a contact in Birmingham that was willing to travel up that very same day to help us resolve the issue. He spent a further 2 days altering the PLC program, the logic program, switched it on, and then it worked absolutely perfect fine. But we were still 2 days late. We got called into management board meeting, and basically all eyes were on us to say, right, what are you going to do? When's it going to be running? And can you give us guarantees? That was the worst.
Jesus, that sounds like a nightmare. What happened? Did you have contracts with these things? Did you have to fork anything out?
No. I mean, luckily there's no force majeure or loss of production. So you have to be a little flexible in this sort of scenario. Nobody turns up to do a job badly. Nobody. I'm an avid believer of that. If you turn up to do a day's work, you turn up to do a good day's work and leave everything as best as you can at the end of it. So yeah, just during the board meetings, it was look, guys. We know there's an issue. We know where the issue is. We just haven't found a resolve for it yet, but we will find a resolve for it. We have a plan B and we have a plan C. Let's try plan A first. If that doesn't work, then we've got plan C. If plan C doesn't work, we'll have to revert back to what it was before.
Blimey, stressful.
Yeah. Yes, very stressful. That was a long time ago, though. I've never been in that situation since.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it takes these kind of learnings to really have the best. The best education is through failure and through these kind of really difficult moments, isn't it? Because
Oh yeah,
I don't know. There's something about these kind of lessons that leaves a real imprint on you, like a tattoo.
Yeah.
A tattoo on your soul.
The ones you remember the most memorable lessons you can ever learn are unfortunately the bad ones. They leave the deepest scar.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure you've had plenty of time to lick those wounds, Jarrod, and onwards and upwards, right? So you're thriving now, which is great to hear. And I think that's been a great chat, Jarrod. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. It's been fascinating to look into the unseen side of manufacturing that keeps our food industry running smoothly. Well, not just food, I know you do other different things as well. I guess my focus tends to lean on food. But yeah, listeners, if you're listening and you want to learn more and you want to get involved and you perhaps sort of thinking of a career with engineering, or you need some belts, or you need some assistance, servicing, maintenance, Jarrod's your man. So Jarrod, where can we find you? Where's the best place to reach you? How can people find out more?
We're all over LinkedIn. We're all over social. So just look for Continuous Process Solutions on LinkedIn. Alternatively, you can drop me an email, jarrod@cpsuk.co, or the website is cpsuk.co. Quite simple, and you'll find all our contact details on the website.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jarrod. I really appreciate your time. And a quick thank you as well to our sponsor, Embrace AI Consultancy, where we help food and drink brands harness automation to scale, streamline, and grow. I'm Sebastian, and this has been the London Food Network. See you next time.